wind carried the scent of wood smoke and damp earth, a smell that was achingly familiar, yet felt foreign after so long. Greg was his name, this warrior. His face was a roadmap of hardened lines and battle scars. He pulled the reins of his weary horse, slowing his pace as he approached the valley. It was his valley, carved into the emerald hill, where the river snaked into a silver ribbon, and where he had left a piece of his heart behind. The war had been a relentless beast, devouring years and leaving an emptiness in his wake. He had fought with the fury of a cornered wolf, driven by the memory of her face, the soft curves of her smile, the gentle touch of her hand. He had survived, but the man he was before the war felt like a ghost, a distant memory whispering in the wind. He saw her then, standing at the edge of the field, her figure a beacon against the setting sun. Her name was Zena. Her hair was much longer now, nearly reaching her waist. She wore a simple linen dress, stained with the evidence of her work. She wasn't a princess, nor a queen, but to him, she was the most beautifulest woman in all the worlds. He dismounted his horse, his joints protesting with age and overuse, the clang of his armor, muted by the years of fighting, echoed in the quiet valley. He didn't call out to her, afraid that this might be a dream, that she might vanish if he had spoke. For some reason, she turned, her eyes widening as she saw him, her breath hitched in her throat, and for a moment, she was frozen, as if time itself had stopped. Then a slow smile bloomed on her face. As sunrise chasing away the shadows, she did not run. She did not scream. She just stood there, her love for him radiating outwards like the warmth of a hearth fire. He started towards her, every step feeling like a lifetime. The distance that had seemed insurmountable became smaller with each movement. He saw the tears glistening in her eyes, the tremor in her lips. He reached for her, his hands trembling as he dared to touch her, tracing the outline of her cheek with a calloused thumb. "Greg," she whispered, her voice hoarse with emotion. The sound of his name on her lips was like a balm on the wounds he had carried within. Then she looked up, her deep brown eyes meeting his world sharpened, focused solely on her. Her curls, dark and springy hair, bounced around her shoulders as she tilted her head, a gesture he always found endearing. Her face, soft and inviting, was a masterpiece of delicate details. He knew each beauty mark like the constellations, the one on her lip, a playful smudge of chocolate, the one on her forehead, a tiny secret in the sky, and the one on her chin, grounding and perfect. She moved with a grace that was both powerful and gentle, her curves celebrating a fullness he found intoxicating. He loved that her body wasn't afraid to take up space in her linen dress, to be feminine. He was lost, completely and utterly, in the sight of her. He could not speak, his throat thick with unspent emotions. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight, as if he was afraid she might break. She buried herself against him, her face pressed against his chest, and he could feel the steady rhythm of her heart, a sound to hear for what felt like an eternity. They stood there in the growing twilight, the silence speaking louder than words. He could feel the weight of the war slowly beginning to lift, replaced by the comforting weight of her in his arms. After a short time, finally, he pulled back slightly, looking into her eyes. "I'm home, Zena," he rasped, his voice rough with disuse. She nodded rapidly, tears streaming down her face, but her smile was radiant. "Welcome home, my love. Welcome home." He then followed her to their house, a humble structure made of wood and stone, but to him, it was their palace. The smell of hearth fire and bacon bread filled the air, a comforting reminder of the life he had left behind. There was no fanfare, no cheering crowds, only the quiet comfort of home and the love of his wife. He knew the war had changed him, etched deep into his soul, but looking into Zena's eyes, he knew he was not alone. He was back where he belonged, nestled in the valley in her arms, and for the first time in years, he felt a flicker of peace settle in his heart. The war was over, and he was finally home. The true battles, he knew, were those fought not with swords and shields, but with love and patience, and with the quiet strength that came from simply being together. He was ready to face those battles, but not alone, but by her side.